Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. We are located on the historical land of the Eastern Cherokee and Southern Iroquois. It's good to be here and to be with you. I'm Karl, and I'm your worship associate for this morning. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, wherever you were born, whatever language you speak, you are welcome here. Whatever your skin color, whatever your class background, whatever your range of abilities, you are welcome here. We are so glad that you chose our fellowship as your place of worship this morning. Whatever your beliefs, whatever your politics, whatever your theology. We come together for worship in order to slow down and listen to the callings of our hearts and spirits. We come together for worship so that we can remind ourselves of our highest aspirations and continue to transform ourselves into our best selves. If you're joining us for the first time this morning, welcome. If you are a visitor and would like to stand and tell us who you are welcome to do so. Do we have any visitors who are brave and bold? After the service, we gather for coffee and social connection in the social room. Please join us. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're not first time, but it's been a long time. So. My husband Rick and I'm Susan.
And where are you from?
Welcome back. Thank you.
If you're interested in getting our weekly newsletter so you can get connected to our community, our weekly sharing of joys and concerns, and our collective efforts to support local justice work, please reach out to the office by email or on our website. I have a few announcements then I'd like to read from the pulpit, and there are additional announcements on the back side of the order of service. Following service today, a safety walkthrough. Please join Kathy Crane and Karen Hiebel between the sanctuary and the social room, that's in the middle of the hall, after service to learn safety features at UUFC. The UUFC Board of Trustees will meet on Sunday, November 24th at noon in the Founders House. Everyone is welcome. Please consider making a financial pledge to UUFC so we can continue to provide service, music, and programming for our community. We cannot do what we do without your generosity. As of this week, 60 pledges have been returned. We are on our way to reaching our goal with 162,694 committed thus far, but that means we still have 29,906 to go in order to achieve our goal. Save the date. Plan on staying after service on December 8th for the congregational meeting. This meeting requires a quorum, so it is important that members attend. We will be approving our incoming Board of Trustees and approve our operating budget for the coming year.
Thank you, Karl. And I'd like to extend all of you a warm welcome as well. I am the Reverend Holly Brown. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I am the minister here at Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. And I offer these opening words for our time together this morning by Reverend Julian Soto. Everything is still on fire, despite our best efforts. In addition to living, it is clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth in the fact that everything is not all your fault. I'm sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches the wind of not my problem, blow and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You in community have the answer. You have the response to the systems of power and control and the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish and where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble and steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. As we enter a time of worship together, I invite you to rise in body, mind, or spirit, wherever you are, to join in singing our opening hymn, number 1020, in the teal hymnal, or also on the screen, Wa Ya Ya. And this one is not necessarily one that we are as familiar with, but we are going to do our best to do a good job of it. And if we don't get it exactly right, well, that just means it's practice for next time, right? All right, we've got this. So next time we do this, I know that I need to make sure I tell the choir ahead of time and that we have some song leaders. But I made this decision last minute because we did it at the retreat I was at last week, and it was so great and so fun, but we had a really great song leader. So thank you for going with it and giving it a try.
Cody, will you light the chalice for us? Thank you. Please join me in reading our words of affirmation. We gather together in a spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
This morning's story is from an author who is a member of the Cree Nation in Canada. And the story is a conversation between a young Cree child and her grandmother, who had been a victim of the boarding school policy in Canada. And it is a story of resilience and hope in the face of that almost unimaginable hardship. It also contains some words and phrases in Cree, and I apologize in advance for what I'm about to do to the language. Our story this morning, When We Were Alone, by David A. Robertson, illustrated by Julie Flett. Today, I helped my kukum in her flower garden. She always wears colorful clothes. It's like she dresses in rainbows. When she bent down to prune some of the flowers, I couldn't even see her because she blended in with them. Nukum, why do you wear so many colors? I asked. Nukum said, well, no seesum. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I wore many different colors. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they gave us different clothes to wear. All the children dressed the same, and our clothes weren't colorful at all. We all mixed together like storm clouds. Why did you have to dress like that? I asked. They didn't like that we wore such beautiful clothes, Nukum said. They wanted us to look like everybody else. But sometimes in the fall, when we were alone and the leaves had turned to their warm autumn hues, we would roll around on the ground. We would pile the leaves over the clothes they had given us, and we would be colorful again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear the most beautiful clothes. After I helped with the flowers, we went over to the back gate. There were vines covering the gate, and they reached all the way to the ground. When my kukum turned to fix the latch, I saw that her braid hung almost as low as the vines. It was like she had a tail. Nukum, why do you wear your hair so long? I asked. Nukum said, well, no seesum. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I grew our hair long, just like our people had always done. It made us feel strong and proud, but at the school I went to, far away from home, they cut off all our hair. Our strands of hair mixed together on the ground like blades of dead grass. But sometimes, in the spring, when we were alone, and the grass had grown so long and thick in the field, we would braid them into the short hair they had given us, and we would have long hair again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear my hair very long. After my kukum had fixed the latch, I followed her to the birdhouse. There was a bird flying through the air like a jingle dress dancer. She fed the bird and whispered, Napinesis michiso, Tamasiktian, Tamaskaisian. And her words sounded just like a poem. Nukum, why do you speak in Cree? I asked. Well, said Nukum, Nuseesum. Nukum said, well, Nuseesum. See, I was worried about that big sentence, and then I screw up the little one afterwards. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I always spoke our language. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they wouldn't let us speak our words. All the children used their strange words, and we didn't understand them at all. Our voices blended together like a flock of crows. Why did you have to talk in their language? I asked. They didn't like that we spoke our language, Nukum said. They wanted us to talk like everybody else. But sometimes in the summer, when we were alone and our teachers weren't anywhere around the place where we were, we would whisper to each other in Cree. We would say all the words we weren't allowed to say so that we wouldn't forget them. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always speak my language. After our gardening work was done, I sat with my kukum in the backyard. Her brother came over and sat with us. He comes over all the time. We drank tea and ate bannock. The tea was hot and sweet, and the bannock was moist and warm and melted in my mouth. My kukum and my uncle talked and laughed like children. Nukum, why do you and Nukumas always spend time together? I asked. Nukum said, well, no seesum. When we were your age, at home in our community, family was the most important thing. We played with each other, did chores together, and shared everything. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they wouldn't let us be together. My brother and I were separated like day and night. Why were you and Nukomas separated? I asked. They didn't like when we were with family, Newcomb said, because when we were with family, we thought too much of home. But sometimes in the winter, when we were alone and we were sure that nobody could see us, we would find each other. We would take off our mitts, and in the cold, crisp air, we would hold hands so we could be with each other. And this made us happy. Now, Newcomb said as she reached over and held my uncle's hand in mine, I'm always with my family.
This is the time we set aside for the offering in order to give toward the financial vitality of this community. Also, 25% of the undesignated collections each week goes to an organization in the local community that we partner with. For the month of November, we are partnering with Clemson Community Care. Each week, we also collect non-perishable food for the Clemson Community Care's food bank. You may also give by going to the UUFC website and using the donate button. There you will see options for paying your pledges and donating toward the organizations we partner with. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you again for your generosity. Another way that we share our joyous spirit and our giving ourselves to one another is through our time of joys and concerns each week. A sacred sharing, reminding us of our connection to community and the knowledge that we are not alone. I've asked Karl to place a stone into this bowl, this vessel representing our shared community, for each of the joys and concerns that are shared today. And I have a few, although it doesn't tie with the 17 that I had one Sunday, so we shouldn't be here that long. All right, I have a joy from Holly with an E that is 5 days at the folk school doing a class on poetry, prose, and pictures. Lovely. And I have a joy from Elaine Faithful that she is profoundly grateful to Holly Ulbrich for a trip to the mountains. And I have not just a joy, but an exuberant joy from Karl Dieter that he saw 6 deer swimming in the lake and 2 river otters on the rocks while kayaking. Wow, that does sound exuberant. Yes, yes, yes. I have a joy from Cody that her cousins are coming on December 25th. That's exciting. Yes. And I have another joy from Meg Williamson that we had a wonderful visit for a first Thanksgiving dinner with the husband's family, including his brother, who we haven't seen in several years. Thank you. And then we have a concern from Michael Elder for Karen's dad, who turned 100 in September and then broke his hip 2 weeks ago and suffered a stroke. He's now in acute rehab and making good progress considering his age. Karen has been in Ohio with him, but will be home on Monday. She asks for your healing thoughts for her father. Yes. And I also want to lift up a concern and I guess a joy as well that Stephen Afrigola has been back in the hospital this week. And there have been a lot of people that have offered care, including Petra and Marty, but others as well with rides and check-ins. So grateful for this community in doing that, while also a concern for Steve's continued healing. And I offer one final stone for all of those joys and concerns that remain close to our hearts, and for those that are not with us this morning. Thank you, Karl. Now we shift the mood a little bit and invite any of our children and youth that would like to go to religious education to go with Karen and Meg as we sing Go Now in Peace. I invite you into a spirit of prayer and meditation, perhaps settling into your seat, putting your feet on the floor, closing your eyes or softening your gaze if you feel comfortable doing so. This is another piece from Reverend Julian Soto called Survivorship. What it takes to survive is more than an emergency blanket, a fire starter, and a hatchet. It requires recognizing yourself after someone has tried to blur your divine image. It requires saying your own name over and over, but only for your own benefit and glory. For finding your route to the earth beneath you and the sky everywhere. For illuminating opaque horizons when you're not sure if you'll ever recover, ever grow. Outliving intentional harm, one evil, it requires a single ember baked in your wheezing, dizzy heart. And if you find that tiny fire smothered, smug patriarchy shrugging off the work of stained hands and starched cuffs, please, friend, please do not despair. We here share the light of our belonging, and with and to one another. The work of outliving evil cannot be completed in a single moment. Recognize and remember who you will yet become. We will share our spark with you. We will say your name with honor and know you as healing and as free. As we enter back into this space together, we have a video called The American Dream by an indigenous performer, Rhea Zaragoza.
Thinking about the news. Daddy leaves it on all day through. I've been thinking about the wars, and to be honest, I can't take it anymore. I hear you every day, the awful words you say, but hate can't be the face of the American dream. I've been thinking about my life and how one day I want to be a mother and a wife. I've been scared of that thought too. In a world of struggle, what are we gonna do? I hear you every day saying it's gonna be okay, but hate can't be the face of the American dream. I've been thinking about our mother and how they took her away from her people, put her in a boarding school, away from her brother, sister, and culture. I can hear her every night saying we've gotta make this right, 'cause hate can't be the face of the American dream. And I know we've got a long way to go, but I've got to believe that change is a choice and it can start with me. And change is a choice and it can start with me. And change is a choice and it can start with you.
I have to name that what I had as an idea for a sermon a couple of weeks ago isn't the sermon that I'm going to give today. I'm sure some of you are so surprised by that. while we have Thanksgiving and the complexity of that is coming up this week, and there is so much that I could say about that, and that is part of the message that I thought I would be giving today. But I decided that an idea of holding on to hope, and I even changed the name of the sermon, but I forgot to change it in the order of service, because if everything goes perfectly, I wouldn't know what to do. So there's always one little thing. And no, I don't do it intentionally. It just seems to happen that way. But instead of beyond hope, thinking of the flame of hope, that which that we keep in our heart, that reminds us of our communities, I thought that was more important today. Not that the other message that I had in mind is less important, but that this one is timely, at least I hope it is. That video saying that hate is not the American dream. Our understanding of the American dream might be based on a fallacy, a misunderstanding of what we hope for as a country that has been marred by this idea of how we're going to make things great. But while it may still feel like everything is on fire, there is hope. That, I believe, is at the heart of what our American dream can be. The American dream that I see is not that we will just survive, but that we will learn how to thrive together, not just us as individuals, but us as a collective, that creation of a beloved community, that we care for one another in the face of injustice, in the face of hate, the face of powers that are wanting to strip rights away. We have the power to survive together. There have been hardships that we have gone through before. Indigenous people went through so much in this country, and in the boarding school system and in other ways being removed from their lands. But all hope is not lost. Despite all that we have been through and all that we might yet go through, hope is not lost. In the words of Julian Soto again, that we remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You were put here to put out the ravenous flames and to heal the world. That might seem impossible at times, but no one else is going to do it for us. There's a quote by Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen, who says, quote, "Wounding and healing are not opposites. They're part of the same thing. It is our wounds that enable us to be compassionate with the wounds of others. It is our limitations that make us kind to the limitations of other people. It is our loneliness that helps us to find other people, or to even know they're not alone with an illness. I think I have served people perfectly with parts of myself that I used to be ashamed of, end quote. Hope is not lost. Just because we are hurting, just because we are wounded, does not mean that we are alone or that healing can't take place. We must keep the flame of hope burning, not the ravenous fire, but the flame that burns within each of us, that burns within this chalice each week that we carry with us. There are words from Julian Soto again, that we share the light of our belonging with and to one another. The work of outliving evil cannot be completed in a single moment. And these words might seem familiar, especially if you heard Holly speak a couple of weeks ago with a quote from Reinhold Niebuhr. His words reminded us that we are not saved within our lifetime, within this moment, but we must be saved by hope, we must be saved by faith, and we must be saved by love, and the final form of love, which is forgiveness. These times that we are in challenge us, they shake us. But it is not something that is unknown, especially for anybody that holds one or more marginalized identities. The dangers have been there. They're just a little bit more obvious, a little more in your face, if you will. Recognizing that anger has a place in the feelings that we have been going through, the grief that we might have been feeling, and recognizing that the anger of the moment is not and cannot be what sustains us for the long term. It has to be hope and love. That is that fire, that is a flame kindled in our hearts. The only way that we can survive is by continuing to keep that hope, that love. Does anybody read the message from the minister in the weekly connection? Okay. Awesome. I sometimes wonder. So that's nice. This past week, I wrote about Transgender Week of Awareness and the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I don't know if from the quote you noticed that the first one was held in 1999. 25 years of holding a day of remembrance for murdered trans beloveds. Despite 25 years of holding these services, every year I hope, I pray that it will be the last one. And yet, no, the reality is that in these times, that isn't the case. But I have to hold on to that hope. We have to hold on to the hope that things will change. And part of the reason of having it as the Transgender Week of Awareness alongside this is that not just to remember trans people when they are dead, but to also remember them while they're still living.
Evacuate as quickly as you can, please.
Right. So we are having a fire drill. So If you would move to your closest exit, we have stairs down this side or out the back. If you have mobility issues, you can go to the parking spaces out by the tree for the handicap spots. had been that we would just kind of wrap up and head to the safety demonstration. I did have a little bit left that I could say, but rather than taking up a lot of the rest of our time, I wanted to make sure that we got to show you what all of our safety equipment is as well today. So that'll be partway down the hallway where you see the AED sign with a heart with a mark in the middle of it. I did tell folks that I had about a long quote and a few closing words that I had to wrap things up. Since so many of you are back in here, if you want me to share that quote and those closing words, I can. But then we will move to the safety demonstration in the hallway. All right? We will. Yeah. Yes. All right. Yes. All right. So I'm going to just do that last little bit of closing out the sermon so y'all can hear the quote that I missed getting to. And it's a bit long. It's from Prentice Hemphill. And it is, quote, "Feeling is revolutionary, a disruption of the status quo. Though it feels personal and happens in our bodies, it does not need to be a solitary action. Feeling and connection bring us into the world and into relationship with one another. Some things seem too big to be felt alone because they are. They require the collective to hold space for the big feelings, for it to move through and to remind us that we are not alone. It's not practical to imagine that we can feel the weight of historical trauma as one person. This is why we meet in the streets. As much as mass protest and direct action are about putting strategic pressure on opposition, they are often a gathering space for grief and pain because they are too big to feel alone. Protests don't get reported on this way. As an eruption of collective grief on the news, they are riots. And we begin the cycle of minimizing the feelings that bring people to the streets and ultimately miss the message. We need those spaces and others too, where our grief can swell, where feeling for feeling's sake can reconstitute us, where empathy for one another can build a community, a society, becomes one, remains one, I think, through shared feeling, end quote. One of the things that is most important for us to remember in difficult times is that isolation is the antithesis of what we need for our survival. We must not isolate ourselves, but hold fast to the communities that we are part of, whether they are family or chosen family, communities like this one, in spaces where we hold shared identities with other beloveds around us. To recognize the importance of sharing how we feel helps us to face our woundedness, as well as to care for one another. This community and others where we find meaning and care offer us a space to bring our wholeness, whatever that emotion, whatever that woundedness and feelings that we are experiencing, into a place where we can be ourselves and be together. May it be so, may we make it so, and blessed be. All right, so that is your closing words, and again, thank you for doing such a great job with the fire drill. I thought we were going to take a lot longer to get out and back in, but we will be meeting in the hallway with Karen and Kathy to review our safety equipment that we have here and answer any questions that people might have. Sorry about that.
No, we're